Welcome back, friends and family, to another episode of Justin's In Your Corner Bible Teaching. I would like to wish you all a good morning and welcome you to this deep dive episode of Justin's In Your Corner Bible Teaching. Together we'll evaluate what Christ and His Word has warned us of for a few millennia now regarding the antichrist, policies he implements, in particular the mark of the beast, and the worshiping of the image of the beast. You know, friends, when Jesus tells us that we cannot both worship God and mammon, because either you will love one and hate or forsake the other, what was Jesus actually referring to? Was it prophecy? How is it possible that money, or the use of it, becomes an object of worship? I'll also be sharing some audio clips straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, from tech giants, the WHO, WEF, wherein they truly tell on themselves regarding their nefarious centuries-old agendas, as they have to because they truly believe in their occult practices. They knowingly telegraph what they will do before they do it, as they believe it somehow ritually gives them the rights over the souls of others to do what they will, no matter how evil it is. Though this may be a fascinating topic for some, for many it may be hard to stomach, and I totally get it. I want to encourage all my listeners that as believers, we do not live in fear, nor take the mark, nor worship any image. And as Christians, we were born to make a stand against the Antichrist and his system, as we have full authority in Christ to do so. The Lord will never leave us nor forsake us. Thank you, Jesus. One reason this is an exciting season is that many of old have desired to live in such a time as we live today, as it means we are presently closer and closer to Jesus' second coming. So God willing, let us have patience, strength, and endurance to be overcomers in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. I'd like to just go ahead and get started. I got my headphones on so I could hear everything properly. And I will close out this music. All right. So how's everybody doing this morning? If you'd like to drop a comment, go ahead. I have the comments up there if you'd like. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. I have, let's see here. Let's go a little bigger. All right, is that even better? Didn't even help. Okay, so right now this image, this was actually created through my instruction to ChatGPT. That's a little crazy. Originally, I wonder if I could show you what it originally showed. Let's see. Mark of the Beast image. Yeah, this one. So I'm going to just share this up here. Okay, you guys all see that? It showed this all-seeing eye thing when I asked it to show like the picture of a skull with a brain interface, right? Chip or whatever in someone's skull, and then in the right hand, right? So that's the only instruction I gave it. And then it actually didn't even bother putting a skull in there. It showed this all-seeing eye image, like computerized digital image of a all-seeing eye. And then obviously it shows like a chip in the right hand. So I thought that was pretty interesting that ChatGPT just kind of took liberty to do whatever it wanted to do, how it translated Revelation 13:15 through 18. So yeah, it was pretty trippy. I'm not a fan of that, of its, that's just a little weird, a little creepy, right? And I actually asked it many, many times. Like I even said the words Neuralink, and and it actually refused to keep changing and editing the picture based on what I was trying to get it to do. And then I finally just said, you know what, I'm not going to mention any company names. I just did it that way. So we'll go back to this one, and then it finally showed an image of what I was picturing. So anyway, wanted to start off with this. I'll go ahead and read Revelation 13:8, so that we have kind of a base to start with. All right. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Okay, I actually have to back up a little bit. All right, so, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Revelation 13:17, and that no man might buy or sell, save or except he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here's the wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 666. So 666. Anyway, I just wanted to start us off with that, and go ahead and get through these various tabs that I have up here. So again, if you have any input or if any insight that or any questions you might have, just go ahead and shoot me a message and I'll go ahead and answer it. I'm actually going to pull up my chat just in case somebody wants to say anything. All right. And again, for in the future, I'm going to actually upload this audio version into the audio podcast here that I have available on most of the platforms out there, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and you name it. All right, so this is Justin's in Your Corner Bible Teaching, and you just do a Google search and it'll pop up any platform that you'd want to listen to it on. All right, so I did want to start off with something called those of you who've not been on my channel yet, or maybe you've followed other people on YouTube or anything like that, and I will get into that in a little bit, but we have something called a Hegelian dialect, okay? And I was just like tapping my belly. Okay, so the Hegelian dialect, according to Google AI, it says, it's a philosophical process of development through three-stage cycle, a three-stage cycle: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. All right, so basically, all said and done, it just means problem, reaction, solution to the problem. A problem that these people that actually live by this Hegelian dialectic, I meant to say dialectic. They actually, this is like their bread and butter, how they plan things. So they create a problem, get a reaction from the masses, and then after they get a reaction from the masses where everybody's crying out for help, and then they come in with their own solution. So, and if they can't implement their own solution and people are finally waking up and, that's a red flag. People are actually waking up to these things. They will start marching and they will start protesting and they will start doing those things. But again, they plan for those things too. They always have like a, I guess it's sort of like a blitzkrieg type of situation where they just bombard you with all these different distractions going on all at the same time, so that it gets your mind off of the main primary issue that they want you to get your mind off, or let it die out type of a thing. For instance, certain files that exist, things like that, and then, for instance, when COVID first came out, and they got a lot of people's attention off of that real quick, through other distractions. And so, especially when there was a big fallout and people started dying and things of that nature. So let's move on. Now, if you guys could see the screen here, everything goes in stages, okay? Originally, when America started, we had silver, gold, and bartering, okay, in the Old West type of thing. The old gold rush that everybody, I'm wondering if they're even talking about that in our history classes with the, children still in elementary school, for instance. I remember I did a report on the gold rush, when I was a little child. But, we went from that. We transitioned to promissory notes for convenience. It's always from the basis of convenience, right? And to try to make things more orderly, okay? But we were doing just fine. Public transportation, the roads, the schools, everything was funded for before we went on paper money, okay? But again, promissory notes came out as a way, and then the banks came out, and then they started backing it by gold and silver, kind of like a guarantee. And then, I wouldn't say collateral, but it was, you could kind of look at it that way. But basically, it was backed by gold and silver. Then we transitioned from that to where they pulled that backing away from the dollar. And then we have now this fiat currency. And the fiat currency is only as good as the people's faith in it, according to their own economic books. That when I went to college, that was, there was actually a whole chapter about this, but they only specifically said, I'm not going to say verbatim what it said, but it absolutely said, if the people lose faith in the current world reserve currency, or the US dollar, that we, who's this we? It said that we will have to, I want to say it said like we will have to force a new monetary system on the people. Something of that nature. And that blew my mind. They're literally in black and white on the page, telling, these college kids like what they plan to do. And that's part of the Hegelian dialect. They prepare people what they're going to do before they do it, okay? Like a conditioning method. So let me just read. Fiat money is a type of government-issued currency authorized by government regulation to be legal tender. Typically, fiat currency is not backed by precious metal, such as gold or silver, nor by any other tangible asset or commodity. Since the end of Bretton Woods system in 1976 by the Jamaica Accords, all the major currencies in the world are fiat money. When our president ran on the ticket the last time, he was talking about draining the swamp and a certain list, and that was the ticket he wrote on, And then he even said, jargon about going to Fort Knox and seeing how much gold we got and doing an audit of it. And, again, nothing ever came of that. Like, has anybody else heard anything brand new about that? No, it's because of the blitzkrieg. It's all the different distractions going on all at the same time. But, if I were president, we got all these untapped oil reserves throughout our country. We got gold and silver too that we haven't mined for the last 100 years. But what could really back our, print our own money and then back it by oil. I mean, that's all you have to do. And you don't have to go into this whole AI, blockchain, and digital currency. It's like that was a total bait and switch. It's just my opinion. And, please, if this hurts your feelings, me sharing this information with you, go ahead and leave a comment. It doesn't bother me. I hope it just helps you. It helps you scratch your brain a little bit to, integrity is a huge, important part in my life. I'm very critical of myself. And, when people say they're going to do something and they end up doing the actual opposite or changing gears and doing totally something that they never even said they were going to do, such as elected officials saying they're going to do something, which is total politician talk, double talk, really. They speak out one side of their mouth and then they do another thing. So, I just want people to understand fiat money is monopoly money. If you really get down to it, that's basically what it is. It says government issued fiat money banknotes were used first during the 13th century in China. Fiat money started to be predominant during the 20th century since President Richard Nixon's decision to suspend U.S. dollar convertibility to gold in 1971. A system of national fiat currencies has been used globally. And at this point, we're still the world's reserve currency. So if some of you don't understand what that means and the BRICS nations and all that, like everyone's trying to fight against that still. And but basically, if anyone wants to buy, say, Middle Eastern oil, doesn't matter what country it is, they have to convert their currency to the U.S. dollar before they could purchase that oil. If that helps you make, it's like we have the buying power still, but that's quickly eroding completely. All right, there's more information about that, but that's something that you can look up on your own. I encourage you to study it. All right, then, it's basically right here. So we have technology. I remember, a guy showed us a video, I want to say when I was 14, that he helped create the first chip. It was the size of a grain of rice, okay? And they said like it was going to be implantable in the tech colleges, and I'm not going to name those, but a few of them, two of the main ones, they hired this from you had the biologists, you had the tech people, you had people that understood thermodynamics and how to transfer heat and stuff. You had people in IT talking about this is before the cloud was ever invented, and that's what they were actually working on at that time, prior to us seeing the video. And they finally got to the point where they got the chip done, but they said it ran on a little lithium battery, and they made it rechargeable lithium ion. They made it rechargeable because that's like your cell phones and things of that nature, but in this little size of a grain of rice. But they're two hurdles, they're two barriers that they had, where, if I recall, was the whole transfer of data. Again, they didn't have the cloud back then, but that was one of their main issues. So, they had these chips they could store all sorts of memory on, but again, it would eventually run out, right? And be overcapacitated. So they were trying to figure out, at that time, they didn't have the cloud or anything like that, so there was no unlimited amount of uploading and downloading and anything of that nature. But it had enough memory to store health information, all your identity information, financial transactions to a certain, but they designed it that way. But again, because it didn't have the cloud, they knew that was going to be limited. Then the other barrier was keeping that battery charged. So that's why they called in people that understood thermodynamics and battery technology back then, and how to charge a battery based on heat. So they scan the human body, and the two places in the human body that fluctuates the most in every human body is right on the right hand and right in the forehead. Those are the two spots in the body that fluctuate the most in body temperature, from hot to warm to cold and back and forth. Now, I think the guy was a physicist that was doing the video, because he eventually came to Christ. He was an atheist when he first started doing this development. And he came to Christ, and there was big government agencies, 3-letter agencies, putting them to task to do this. Or I should say 5-letter agencies. It starts with a D, ends with an A. But tasking these people to do this. So this person, of course, he was atheist, scientist guy. And then one of his friends was a Christian, and he's like, probably not supposed to share this information with his friends, top secret stuff, I'm sure. And he ends up sharing this information with his buddy, because, scientists like to talk about themselves and their accomplishments and things like that. And his buddy ended up telling him, hey, can I share something with you? And then he showed him Revelation 13. And it was like a ton of bricks just hit him. And he couldn't fathom. Eventually, he just felt so ashamed that he was part of the whole development of the one that's the size of a grain of rice. Now, fast forward, but again, that was never pushed out on the public back then. It was heard of, but it was never pushed. They were trying to make it subtle, where, put it in, chip your dogs and get people conditioned that way. But a lot of people were like, hey, we're not doing this in our kids. We're not doing this in humans. Like, people were refusing it back then. And then in Europe, I believe in Sweden, they were, I want to say in the 90s on 60 Minutes or one of those channels, they were, trying to push it. They were trying to market it as like hey, this is good for security, identity, to prevent identity theft and all these things. And you'll be able to swipe in and out of your job and just unlock your doors and, things like that. So way back then in the late 80s, early 90s, they were talking about that stuff. But by no means was no one saying, you won't be able to work without it and anything of that nature yet. All right, so let's get back to the monetary system. So if people lose faith in the existing monetary way of doing things, they're going to come in with a solution, a replacement. Okay, that's the whole idea behind the Hegelian dialect. So where I'm getting at is we've had all, if you look up, and I have tabs open for this too, for Vietnam, China, Jamaica, and any other country doing this, they all go on the curtails of, hey, the reason why we're doing this is because there's all this identity theft and crime of people opening up false accounts, and we got to close these accounts and clean things up. Well, if you had proper oversight, none of that would have ever happened in the first place. So now their solution, as I'll show you here in a second, their solution is to, well, I'll just let the presentation go here. All right, so we went from gold, silver to paper money, backed by gold and silver, and people were bartering too. Went through the Great Depression, all that. Then it wasn't backed by gold and silver, and then fiat currency, even though we're world's reserve currency. Then they got people used to swiping. Okay, one of my buddies, Peter, he used to talk about this with our clients to help them budget better, to help with their cash flow and stop swiping so much, because things could just add up, and you're like, you look at your bank statement and you're like, I can't believe I spent all that money on those lattes, or whatever it may be, over the month. So anyways, that's how quick it is, though. It's a convenience method to get people conditioned to accept swiping. All the listeners out there, who has actually gone to the bank and went to the ATM? You can comment if you want. Who's been to the bank, gone to the ATM to pull cash out, and then use that cash to buy things? I honestly can't remember, other than when I went on a trip, because sometimes you have to have cash going through toll roads. But even then, the last time I went to Florida to visit my family, and California to visit my family, both times, no more cash. It's cashless when you go on the toll roads. There's no throw in the coin that's $1, popping that in there anymore. There's none of that going on. So it was like the first time, though, I pulled out cash anticipating that I'd have to go through a toll booth. But no, what you do is you stop at the main, visiting center, and then you got to buy a card, and then you got to upload money onto it, and it's all digital, and they check it as you drive under things now. And that just kind of blew my mind, because between the time that I went to California and the time before that, that I'd gone to Florida, it was, probably a year, but in less than a year or so, and they changed everything in that quickly. All right, so they got everybody used to swiping now with credit cards, getting people into debt with high interest, right? And causing people to cry out for, the banks putting them in this financial hardship, right? Of course, they got themselves into it. But again, they knew that the people would fall for that. And they knew, sometimes people lose their job, and now you're living on your credit cards. They knew these things would happen. It's human nature. They've studied, they've mapped the human brain. So they understand, and I'm not going to go too deep into that right now. But so then we have, once everyone started waking up to that and hey, let's just cut up our credit cards. Now they still have the technology of the credit card and chipping and all that. And so what they did is they go, okay, well, since the market acceptance of credit cards is no longer such a big thing anymore, let's just transition and use that same technology to do a check card. Now they just take it right out of your account. So now they got you even more. They got you to buy into it, okay, whether you knew it or not. And myself included. That's why I said I don't remember the last time, other than when I traveled, that I went to the to give people tips and stuff, going to the airport and everything. That was the last time I think I used cash. I use my check card all the time. I use it responsibly, of course. I budget and all that. But again, it's just the whole idea of the convenience factor, and then it just gets people sucked in. No longer do you have to work to go and drive someplace, to go pull the money out, to deter you from spending money when you don't have to. So, yeah. Then we went with our swiping with our check cards to cell phones, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and wearable devices. Okay, with watches. I used to have one for like a Fitbit type of thing, and I stopped wearing it because it left like a like this reddish mark on my wrist, and I was like, yeah, screw that. I'm not doing that anymore. And then I'm seeing these reports of like skin cancer, things like that. So thank God I stopped wearing that. But now on these, whether it's a Fitbit or a Garmin or Samsung or whatever watch, Apple Watch, you can pay for stuff with that, okay? With Apple Pay, Google Pay, all that. And I believe, I'm not going to name the company, but another company does it. Quite a few companies do it, actually, as an app on your devices. Now they're getting people conditioned. Let's not even pull our wallet out to pay for anything. Let's just use wearable devices and swipe with our body, okay? And then the natural progression to that is what you see on the screen here. Neuralink, and then check this out. I'm not going to play the video, but if you could see this right here, they're talking about, and if you look at right here, join our community, explore opportunities to participate in Neuralink's clinical trials now open to individuals worldwide. Join the patient registry. So they're really pushing full speed ahead. They've already got a bunch of updates with BCI. It's the wireless brain-computer interface. Okay. They're, again, problem, reaction, solution. I know people and people in my family vaccine injured. Okay. But I remember, for instance, when I was coaching gymnastics at the start of 14 or 15 and a half years old, I remember there was like one kid out of like 1,000, right? We had a lot of people at the gym I coached at. We had like one boy child out of all the girls and boys that went to this gym throughout the week. We had one child that had peanut allergies. One. And I'm 47 now. And that was back when I was, 15 and a half. But now I forget what the number is, but I don't know what it is actually, and I don't want to say anything. But basically these vaccine injuries, is all I'm saying, is causing irreparable harm to the youth and many generations ahead. Or for the rest of their life and then ahead. And so now they're saying all of these like impaired cognitive diseases and, ALS and, spinal cord injury, that's different. But, what is it? Alzheimer's and all those types of things. They are really pushing this to be like, hey, well, here's the solution. We're gonna put transhumanism type agenda. We're gonna stick stuff in your brain, and then that's gonna help fix you. So again, problem, reaction, solution. And now check this out. You got the Neuralink with the head part, and now look at Bill Gates. And this is on MSN. He's just very open about his agendas. Have you guys ever seen his TED Talk? About if we do really good on reproductive health and vaccines, we could lower that population by 10 or 15%. So, yeah, it's pretty ballsy of them to be talking like that, like right there for everybody to hear him. And then he tried to do a PR thing to kind of smooth it out, like, oh, this is not what I meant. Yeah, right. So, right now, Bill Gates declares the end of the smartphone era and unveils its surprising replacement. It's a tattoo that are integrated into the body. Now, with nanocapacitors. The tattoos are powered by tiny nanocapacitors, and they don't require bulky batteries or displays, making them a far more suitable alternative to today's mobile devices. According to Medium, Gates points to electronic tattoos developed by Chaotic Moon. I haven't even looked them up yet. And later acquired by Accenture. As the next big leap in personal technology. Instead of holding a phone in our hands, these tattoos could allow us to communicate, access the internet, and even monitor our health, all without a screen in sight. You got a video here. I'm not sure if that's a... Nope, it's not. How these tattoos work, you might be wondering, what exactly are electronic tattoos? Well, think of them as temporary skin applications that use smart ink filled with nanocapacitors. These tattoos can communicate with surrounding devices, letting you do things like send messages, browse the web, or even unlock doors. Like I told you about before when they mentioned that way years ago, late 80s, early 90s. They are, in essence, a health tracker and a communication tool rolled into one. And the best part, they're invisible, meaning no more holding a phone or carrying a bulky device around. It's seamless experience where technology becomes a part of you. That's transhumanism, folks. Not something you carry. And then it says a big question, privacy, security, and ethics. So that's going to be a big hurdle they go over. And of course, they're going to PR spin the heck out of that here. I'm not going to even bother reading it. They talk about the need for another fascinating aspect of electronic tattoos is their potential to change how we think about health and wellness. The ability to monitor heart rate, sleep patterns, just like a Fitbit. Now, this smart ink, did you guys, smart ink filled with nanocapacitors. When you look up the patent, it's called luciferin is the term. And it's a bioluminescence. So you put your hand under a thing and it'll be able to actually see it kind of like black light, you know, when you got like a, I don't know, you check, you should always take a black light with you to hotels, just in case. But that'd be the same thing. You can't see it on your skin normally, but under black light, they'll be able to see that you got it. And, you know, obviously when you're purchasing something, you don't even have to show it that you have it. It's just on you, or in you, I should say. So again, you got Neuralink with the head, and then you got Mr. BG there with the hand. Now, when Social Security came out, okay, the Social Security card, you know, that's relatively new. I mean, it's been around for a long time. I forgot what year. Actually, I could look it up right now. When did Social Security start? $1935. Huh, that's interesting. Right around the time the old Federal Reserve started. Around that time. So, how it all came together. Now, I tell you what, a lot of the Bible preaching churches out there back then were going, oh, this is the mark of the beast, because it had numbers on it and stuff. But again, it didn't have six sets of numbers. It's a difference. It doesn't equal 18, right? Numbers on our social security card. So, and of course it didn't have the qualifiers in there. It wasn't something you put in your right hand. It wasn't something put in your forehead. But at minimum, it conditioned the masses, right? It got people alarmed, and these powers that be observed that. And they accounted for that. They accounted for those types of reactions. It was a beta test, if you want to call it that way. But it was the initial way to get people put in a data, to acquire data on people, to data mine, and to track us like cattle, so to speak. All right. So then, now we move forward. Now, because of the state of our economy, let me just pull that up real quick. Here's the real time for everybody to see. See that huge number? I think I talked about this in one of my last podcasts. And then there's other numbers to look at too. But check this out. U.S. federal tax revenue. And then you got total state revenue. You're like, oh, that's a lot of money. But it'll never put a dent. It'll never put a dent in this 38 trillion. That's just, and it goes up by the millisecond, as you can see. This is real time, everybody. And my theory is that they will use this. Actually, I heard something. It's kind of leaving my brain. But I think they're going to tie it to our debt, to wipe out our debt. Actually, that there was articles about this floating around, that somehow our current administration is going to use tokenizing of our debt. Maybe I'm misspeaking, but something along those lines to help wipe it out. And so I'm not sure how that would all work, but that's what they're gearing for, and I believe they're going to try to dangle that carrot in front of the American people and to promise everybody the world. Like, hey, you'll never have issues again. There's no more inflation. They're going to just tell you to the moon, like, all the wonderful things, right? So now we know the state of our economy, our dollar. The buying power of it is a fraction of it. So when I talked to my brother last about the last time I did a live stream, I had said something about the home that our parents bought back in, I believe, 1976 in Southern California. It was like a suburb there in Ontario, Pomona area. And that place went for $30,000. Big old ranch style home, three bedrooms, and had everything. A big old pool in the backyard with a deck, and huge front yard with big old trees and everything. A big side yard, and went for $30,000. You fast forward, that same home, my brother told me, is just over $800,000. That's crazy. But what it is, it's a silent, you could look at it as creative accounting. It's a made up number. I know my realtor people are going to kind of understand what I'm talking about. But basically, because of this number here, right here, and the buying power of the dollar that is fractionalized compared to the 30,000 30,000 back then would have bought us, I don't know how much, like tons of money or tons of properties, not just one property, tons of properties nowadays. The buying power of the dollar has just been destroyed, and it continues to get destroyed every day. So, but again, problem, reaction, solution. They knew this would happen, and every administration since way back then kept adding more and more and more debt to the ceiling, right? So, or creating a higher debt ceiling. Just printing more money, diluting the value of the dollar, the buying power of the dollar. All right. So now, rather than backing our current currency and taking it out of the whole fiat world and backing it by oil or gold or something like that, or any other commodity, they go, well, let's just do this. Centralized digital currency. Now they're saying in the last bill that they'd put through, they said that they weren't going to do that. We're not going to centralize it. It's going to be DeFi, okay, decentralized. We're not going to, we would never centralize it, right? And that's the other term for is CBDC, central bank digital currency. See all the convenience, potential benefits. I don't know if you guys can just kind of glance at that, take a screenshot of it if you want. This model provides stability as it is government backed and stable with a fixed value and can potentially increase financial inclusion. Ooh, see that word? Financial inclusion. So some of you in the workforce understand what that woke word means, okay? So this is basically saying, if you read this like a contract attorney, that then there's going to be people excluded if they don't fall in line with this eventually when they roll it out, okay? So in order and can potentially increase financial inclusion, meaning there's other people not included, okay? And when I show these other tabs, you're going to see it's just writing on the wall, okay? China was one of the first countries to launch a pilot program for its digital yuan in 2021. And then Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria, these countries have already launched their own CBDCs. That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, people are just falling in line with the whole push. Here's the decentralized financial ecosystem, okay? The main difference is that DeFi is a decentralized financial ecosystem using blockchain to remove intermediaries for peer-to-peer services, while CBDC is a centralized digital form of country's fiat currency, issued and backed by a central bank. CBDCs are a form of government-issued digital money, whereas DeFi uses decentralized protocols built on public blockchains like Ethereum. Am I saying that right, guys? It gives you side by side what are the features, controls, purpose, foundation, underlying asset. So here's the underlying asset. Here's the difference between them. Otherwise, they're similar. And of course, the central bank oversees everything. And there's all these different types of Bitcoin, Ethereum. Gosh, I don't even know them all because I don't actually follow it that much. Now check this out. You guys heard the recent talks about from UK about digital IDs and having the right to work there. I'll show a little screenshot of that too. Let's just go for this. Biometrics digital ID is an electronic form of identification that uses unique physical traits like fingerprints or facial scans to verify a person's identity, often stored securely on a smartphone. And again, look, this is the problem. They can simplify transactions by selectively sharing only necessary information while using biometric authentication to prevent theft or impersonation. I forget, when I was in financial services, they were, I forgot, it was like into the trillions. Trillions of people getting hacked and identity theft and things of that nature. So, yeah, so now look, key features: convenience, security, biometric data. It's unique to you and difficult to counterfeit, and the data stored in apps is encrypted. Privacy, you can choose what information to share for each transaction, and the system only shares what's necessary. Who decides what's necessary to share, right? Recently, this company came out, and it's already on their, they're not forcing people to do it yet, but it's already an option in the settings to upload, to do biometrics. A lot of people already scan their face to log into their phone. That's been ongoing. But now they're uploading that into a part of the app that shares this information, number one. Number two, it creates this digital ID card, now you're in the system. And I believe, what was it? It has you upload, it proves who you are. Like, it has you upload your driver's license or passport or whatever you want to. And they're leaving it up to you what you want to upload right now. Here is the screenshot. I'm not going to play the video because I don't want to get flagged for misuse of, copyright information and all that. This is from the Times. The Times is right here. But if you play this, he's holding a strong line, and when he's talking like that, when he says the word mandatory, his voice kind of it doesn't creep me out. I'm not fearful of any of this stuff, but you could tell it's like very narcissistic. It's very coming from a place where he thinks he has authority, and he says it in such a authoritative way. When he says the word mandatory, he says it with like with force. It's like, you have to do this, otherwise you won't be able to work. So he goes into this prior to this screenshot, or prior to I have it paused, but prior to these words that he says here, this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory, is how he kind of phrased it. Prior to that, though, he was, if I reverse it, I won't play it, but I'll reverse it. He's talking about immigration. The whole immigration system doesn't need to be fair if we want to maintain that binding contract that our politics is built on. Control over its borders, and all of these things they caused through their policies, their open door policies. They caused this to happen. They created the problem for the people to finally march and react. And now they're saying, oh, by the way, here's an idea. Let's get everybody digital ID, and now we won't. It'll help us fight this whole, illegal immigration thing and that they created in the first place. And, oh, by the way, you can't work if you don't have it. It's just crazy. Let's see. The fact that every nation needs to have control over its borders, we do need to know who is in our country. It's just like, okay. So it's writing on the wall, guys. Oop, I don't want to play it. Don't play it. Don't play it. Okay, good. And then, so here's China's thing. You guys all know about their social credit system too. So not only do they got the digital ID, but it's tied in with AI, surveillance systems everywhere, tracking people's biometrics right on the street. They even know like how people walk. That alone, even if their face is covered, that alone will identify somebody, because everybody, I guess, that's just like a fingerprint, has a certain stride that's slightly different than everybody else. It's unique to everybody and how their body moves. So that's how very state of the art that they got it going on over there in China as far as the surveillance system. And then they got that tied into the apps with this social crediting system. And then if you just do a little YouTube search, and the people that actually live in China that either came here or whatever to escape it all, they actually talk about how, and I've seen videos too of people in China showing this. And I think China is fine with people showing this. It's no secret. And because they it's like they're proud of it, right? How they could shame people right on the big screen in the cities, like kind of like if you were to see it on the big screens in New York City. Like they shame people that are low on the social credit score, you know, and they can't buy a home, they can't get an auto loan, they can't rent a place, you know, and they become homeless. So if that's what you guys want for our country, just keep, you know, keep pushing this AI and this whole infrastructure thing, and you know, here in Michigan, they're proposing in this open land in the southeastern part of Michigan, I believe. They're trying to put in a whole new, the data center, just like they're doing in other parts of the country. So, hey, just fight against it, resist it, okay? Plus, it uses like millions of gallons per day of water, and it'll put a huge load. DTE was actually, if you look it up, it's gonna put a huge, like, I forget how many megawatts it's gonna put on the electrical infrastructure that, you know, they've never experienced before. But they're reassuring the public, like, hey, it's not going to make your bills go up. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we won't see. Hopefully people stand up in their townships, because that's where they do it. They go locally, where people in these open spaces where there's not a lot of people that'll actually bother to go to the township meetings or anything to get votes put through. And then if they fail, if the people do stand up, then they just litigate it and try to sue the city or something. I forget how they get around it, but that's what they do. They bully the legal system against the townspeople. Here's another thing. Vietnam, 82 million bank accounts closed. Let's just read this. Starting September 1st, 2025, the State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, began closing or deactivating more than 86 million bank accounts as part of a data cleansing effort to modernize payments and combat fraud. Again, problem, reaction, solution. If they had the proper oversight in place in the first place, this problem wouldn't even exist. I heard a report, one YouTuber that was very big on the numbers and understanding this 82 million bank account thing being closed. He was saying how there's only 100 million people in Vietnam, but there's like roughly 200 million accounts open there. And So that's why out of the 200 million accounts that are open, they're just going to wash out the 82 million. Now, he was saying how, various people are opening up various accounts. You got your cash flow account, you got your paying your bills account, and that's how they do things in Vietnam. And that seems smart to do. But now, check this out. Implementing biometric verification. As part of Government Project 06, new regulations required in-person facial or fingerprint biometric verification for logins and online transactions over a certain amount. The closures affected accounts that did not comply with these rules. Here I'm trying to get to, check this out. Impact of closures. Funds are not seized. Officials noted that the closures are a cleanup, not a forfeiture of funds. But check this out. Money in these accounts becomes inaccessible until the holder, so they're putting people under duress. Can you see what's happening? Your livelihood, your pay, your income to be able to pay for things. Your bills, your gas, your transportation, just everything is now you're beholden to the system to comply. Because if you don't do this right here, money in these accounts becomes inaccessible until the holder completes the required biometric verification. And then it talks about how people are against it and so on. It's going to be difficult for people and such. Increased scrutiny. Of course, they're talking about that. So again, they're saying, hey, you can't have your money. We know it's yours, but you have to do it our way or the highway. They're really doing that for real. And, all right, so check this one out. AI, of course, who runs AI on Google? So no, Jamaica's digital IDs, NIDs, will not be mandatory in 2005. Well, when will it be mandatory then? Of course, I questioned it 2025, but should I put in 2026 or 7 or 8 or 2030, Agenda 2030? Well, anyways, check this out. On the purpose, I have it highlighted here too. Purpose: the system is intended to improve access to government services and financial, keyword, financial inclusion, with the hope of creating a unique and secure way of verifying identity, explains biometric update. Financial inclusion. So there's going to be, if you don't have the digital ID, even though it's not mandatory, they're saying that over and over again. No, it's not mandatory. But that's double talk, because if it's saying to improve access to government services and have financial inclusion, so if you don't have it, you won't have financial inclusion. I mean, come on. It's double talk or word salad or whatever they want to call it. Now, here's how everything is like. Remember the Blitzkrieg thing I was telling you about? All the different distractions. We got our wars too, wars and rumors of war that the Bible talks about. You got the list out there. You got all these things going on all at the same time. You got poor Marjorie Taylor getting bashed by who, because she's just trying to keep people accountable, and she's reasonably and in her Christian faith knows how to be a peacemaker and try to bridge what is going on. Why am I getting that's how she's being. She's like, I don't understand. I'm sure she knows now. But by their fruit. Jesus told us this. You will know them by their fruit. When it comes to believers, you'll know them by their fruit and how they love each other, right? But when it comes to people in the world, you will know them by their fruit, meaning the lack thereof too, or, whether fruit or lack thereof, or if it's good fruit or rotten fruit, right? So anyway, that's my little spiel on that one. But right here, now they've been talking about smart cities for quite a bit. And if you remember the did I even talk about digitalid? Yeah, I did. So our approach to smart city governance. Okay, and this was in the G20 summit way back in 2019 in Osaka, Japan. Cities are the solution makers and test beds, like we're lab rats, of the future. Only by creating a joint trust-based framework can we realize the full potential of smart city technologies for the benefit of all mankind in the future. Some person out of Finland wrote this. Local and regional governments will need, okay, that's just a euphemism, right? Or I should say the next word would be mandatory after that, right? So local and regional governments will need to ensure the application of technology promotes human rights through equitable public service provision, putting our communities and planet first. Thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. The G20 Smart Cities Alliance is an important mechanism to help facilitate this transformation, bringing together a critical network of partners to collectively address and mitigate future crises. They got a roadmap. Hey, hop on the WEF. This is a WF forum here. You actually have to join them to look at more information. They got things locked up pretty good, but they're still trying to promote it without you having to join. So they do these soft hints of what they're going to be doing. To support their booming urban populations, many cities are coming to rely on the Internet of Things. That's their lingo that they've talked about a lot on the WEF. That is the world's ever-expanding network of connected devices to collect, share, analyze real-time data on urban environments. The data gathered using IoT technologies is helping cities combat crime, reduce pollution, decrease traffic congestion, improve disaster preparedness, and more. Again, that's just marketing. They don't provide any data to say otherwise, right? They're just it's a PR spin. None of that is true. Do you think a guy wielding a gun and is gonna cause that person to reduce his crime based on these, them gathering more data information? No, criminals are going to just continue doing what criminals do unless they find Jesus, okay, and repent. Now here's the problem reaction solution. Watch. Without proper governance, you unelected officials at the World Economic Forum, you unelected officials are telling us this. Without proper governance, these smart city technologies pose significant challenges. But despite the growing number of smart cities around the world, no global framework exists for regulating how data should be collected in public spaces, e.g., by traffic cameras or Wi-Fi hotspots and subsequently used. All right, enough of them. I'm sick of talking about them. Here is, we used to just have something called cell phones. It's interesting they used to call it a cell phone because what's a cell? You could look at it as a biology thing, right? Our body, the cells in our human body, right? But you could also look at it as a jail cell. Things are named intentionally, certain things, as a conditioning method, I think. And it's very slow and methodical over decades. But anyways, and then they reframed it or renamed it smartphone, right? But now they've changed that to smart city, or now they're going into the whole smart city thing and pushing that huge. So the smart and smart city isn't a single acronym with one meaning, but is a descriptive term that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Often it refers to the SMART goal criteria. Again, that's pushed by the WEF, as well as the other acronyms too. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. It's used in business planning. Even business corporations, all use it. Or maybe a variation of that, and they call it some other acronym. It can also refer to the original technology acronym for self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology. Okay, like Big Brother, particularly when discussing the underlying digital infrastructure. All right, so now you all know what SMART is, what it actually stands for. As far as cell phones and the smart city, this is what it's referring to. Self-monitoring, analysis, reporting, and technology. Basically, once you buy into it, now you've opted into it. Okay, so resist is the underlying thing I'm trying to encourage everybody to do, is resist. Here's some pictures. Do I have a picture of the one that I had earlier? Maybe I do. Okay. So here's their, I'm not going to click on any of these pictures, but these are just their marketing schemes here. Smart mobility. Smart living, smart this, smart that, smart governance, smart economy. And you're all within a 15-minute walk of, so that, or small little electric transportation. You don't have to go anything more than 15 minutes of a quick electric drive somewhere or walk. And they already have the technology as far as networking everything and surveillance and, like we know in Japan, or China. Sorry, Japan. But you're probably not too far away from it either. All right. Look this up for yourself. I'm not going to go totally into it, but you got the WEF Agenda 2030. It talks about the 17 sustainable development goals that they have to achieve economic, social, and environmental progress. It all sounds so nice, right? But when you actually look at it, it actually destroys the sovereignty of nations. Okay? It overrides those things. And your liberties are taken away, your rights of things that you've had before, now they're all just taken away once countries start adopting it. And again, the WEF, all unelected officials. They're not even officials. They're all unelected oligarchs. Then, what was this one? Again, this is a World Economic Forum launched in 1958, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. we all know what that stands for, DARPA, is behind some of the biggest innovations in the military, many of which have crossed over to civilian technology market. These include things like advanced robotics, global positioning systems, and the internet. Let's scroll down to what they're saying here. A neuroscientist and director of this company, Biological Technologies Office, believes we'll be at a point where we can control things simply by using our mind. Imagine a world where you could just use your thoughts to control your environment, Sanchez said. Think about controlling different aspects of your home just using your brain signals, or maybe communicating with your friends and your family just using neural activity from your brain. Okay, there are already some examples of these kinds of futuristic breakthroughs in action, like brain implants that we've already talked about, controlling prosthetic arms. Just last week, when was this written? Of course, they don't say on this non-member, or maybe it's at the bottom. No date. No date. Of course it's not. Just last week, this agency demonstrated this amazing tech for the first time and gave a paralyzed man back the sense of touch with brain implants that provided the feeling as if his own hand were being touched, he reported. So it's going to promise all these wonderful things. People get back their physical abilities they had maybe after an accident or amputee, or fighting Alzheimer's, things of that nature. They're going to really push it on the whole medical scale of things to market it. They'd probably even get the insurance companies, medical insurance companies, to pay for it, just to get people to buy into it. All right. Next step. Oh, man. See, these are the 3 recordings that I have that are WEF. You got Klaus Schwab. I said lady speaking on Elite, so I'm not sure what her name was. And then part 1, Yuval Noah Harari. He is wicked guy. Maybe I can play music at the same time, and that'll kind of blur it a little bit. I heard maybe you can do that, so I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm going to play some music. You guys hear that? I don't know if you can hear that now. Why isn't it playing? Holy cow. Maybe it's because... Oh, there we go. Man, I was on a roll. I thought I had this down pat. Because I wanted to play music. All right, I don't know if you could even hear this, but let's go.
Also be clear, the future is not just. The future is built by us.
Of course not.
By a powerful community as...
Okay. So, you guys won't be able to hear the audio, so I'm just going to delete these. Sorry, that was something I really wanted everybody to hear, because you're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth. Right on the WEF website is where I pulled it off of. Well, originally YouTube. I pulled the audio off of YouTube. And there's no editing or anything like that. I just basically played the YouTube video and then extracted the audio from it, and that was it. and then I was going to play it, but it won't play. I got to figure out how to do that. Hello. Okay, I got to make sure my mic works. Okay, good. All right, and then we got nanotechnology. Here's the other bombardment. So I'll get in the other bombardment. So you got it on the ground, you got it in the air, you got it in our water system, food supply, and so on. Nanotechnology isn't just for pharmaceutical and all that, but they're trying to do stuff in the food supply, water supply, you name it. You know, they try to say it's all for health stuff, but we know it's not. Just make us sicker. Right there. Nanotechnology is used in, this word, to improve delivery and efficacy primarily through nanocarriers like lipid nanoparticles that protect fragile mRNA and deliver it into cells. We all know the aftermath that happened in the last 5 years. We all know. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. I actually talked to a buddy of mine, and he gave me his testimony about it, and he didn't do the other shots. He did the first one out of pressure, but then the second, and he never did any after that. Thank God. I'm praying for my buddy. You got, all right, let's just move on. Right here in the Bible, we got pharmakia refers to sorcery, witchcraft, and the use of drugs or spells for harmful, magical, or deceptive purposes. So just so you know how these oligarch, elite freak shows do things. They can dress it up with philanthropy or whatever they want to call it, or put a religion name on it, or a social term on it like conservatism or whatever. Liberal, conservative, they could go on that, say like a ticket, right? Just saying like, hey, this is what I am. But when it really comes down to it, they do these things. They're a part of this whole occult thing. Someone I follow, I really want to hop on their show one day, or if they want to hop on mine, that's cool too. But Donut Factory, he follows all the occult symbolism and makes all the connections. That way you're not caught off guard. And, there's people out there that are awake following the money. And that's also another way of doing it, right? You can follow the money, but money can get hidden, right? But these symbols that these occult people believe in, and the elites and stuff, they're proud of it. And they do it right in your face, like with their hand symbols, their gestures, their logos of their companies they own, and so on, and the color patterns they use, and say checkerboard stuff that they use, and arches they say they're going to build. Things like that, you're going, holy cow. They're like in your face about it. And they think that they know that most of the people in the world aren't going to pay attention to it. And they're not going to, they're just going to say what they're going to do. That way, now they have the authority or the blessing of their system that teaches them, hey, as long as you tell people what you're going to do, whether it's openly in their face or subliminally through symbols and their company logos or whatever that they do to get the messages out, or hand gestures, they will convey it. And then now they have the rights, the legal right, apparently, the occult legal right to enact their plan to oppress and to harm you. All right. Let's move on. Oh, I did want to show. Well, I won't show it, but I'll read straight from the scripture about, and that's in Revelation 18:23, when it talks about pharmakia or sorcery. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, merchants on earth, for by their sorceries were all nations deceived. You know, the first time in world history, you know, besides, you know, the axis of powers, right, in the world, the different world wars we had, the 2 world wars we had, you had, you know, you always had the axis of powers on the good side, and, you know, the 3 on the one side and the 3 bad on the other side. Always a divide and conquer thing is their plan too. But in this, I kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys. So, pharmakia is right here. Let me just, I can show you, I can share this if you want. Here, I need to stop sharing this screen. Stop screen. And now I'm going to add. All right, you guys see this? All right, so Revelation right here, 18:23. These little numbers here are the Greek, because it's New Testament. It's the Greek Strong's Concordance. So if I click here, it'll show what the Greek is for the word light. Okay. I go to the Old Testament. It's Hebrew, Aramaic, maybe even Chaldee. All right, so let's go down to, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Let me click on that. There you go. Pharmakia, it was where we get the word pharmacy from. Greek word. It literally means medication, pharmacy. That is, by extension, magic, literal or figurative, sorcery or witchcraft. Okay, so make sure you guys understand that. In Isaiah 47:9, it says, "But these 2 things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection," or to full fruition, "for the multitude of thy sorceries," pharmakia, "and for the great abundance of thy enchantments." Okay. So, many children's lives were lost, and many mothers, widow, and parents, and spouses lost. Not just children, but people's spouses have died. Okay, and it's the first time in world history, besides the world wars where you had a few get together and do a world war. This is the first time where almost every single country around the world conspired, or I should say made a cooperative effort, like together. They all just came together and said, we're going to do this, and they did it. And it says the whole world here in Revelation 18:23. Great men of the earth, merchants of the earth, so the ultra wealthy men of the earth, men and women, For by their sorceries were all nations deceived. Okay. And you don't know something totally, like a lot of people saw through that right from the get-go, but a lot of people that willingly did it took the, you know what, it wasn't until hindsight did they realize they made a mistake. You know what I mean? So that's where that deception was. And all nations deceived. All right. So let's move on down. I'm going to stop sharing that for a moment. We'll go back to life, back to reality. Just kidding. I'm a major dork. All right, share screen. Yeah. All right, so we got through that one. We're almost done, guys. Everybody, look up Died Suddenly. There's actual, I believe, Instagram, Facebook accounts, social media for them. They originally got blocked when COVID was coming out. And all the social media platforms were blocking the heck out of them. They came out with a documentary. I can't even say that word right now because I'm so hungry. Documentary. And then you got all these PR spinners saying, oh, it's false information. Yeah, so Died Suddenly back in 2022. It's still out there. And that's pretty cool that they didn't actually take it off. But it's all factual evidence. And if people just look it up, look it up. All right, and then we got, I just typed in AI and AI found it from a YouTube video. And it was a TED Talk about Bill Gates quote, if we do a really good job. So, and it says this quote was the quote, which is often taken out of context, comes from Bill Gates' 2010 TED Talk titled Innovating to Zero. All right. I'm just going to read what Bill Gates said and just let that be. You know, I'm very big on scripture, interpreting scripture. Okay. There's no misunderstanding if that's what you do. Okay. And again, it still happens. People do misquote or misinterpret because maybe they don't go to the original language and stuff. But, you know, you could still read something like a text message because, you know, things get lost in translation because you can't really hear the person's tone of voice. You can't read their body language because it's just a text message, right? So that I think a lot of people get in fights because they totally misread what they were meaning on the other side. So but this was very specific. He was on the world stage talking about the problem with there's too many people in the world. And then he goes and says this: the world today has 6.8, and that was back in 2010, 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Like, where's he getting that from? Like, just math projected in the future. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, and reproductive health services, abortions, and I'm adding that in there because that's what they always mean by that, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. The 6.8 as well as the 9 billion that he's forecasting. Now, I'm not going to even bother with the fact checkers, try to spin it as, but that's, you know, take them at their own words. They tell on themselves. And then you guys all know about the Georgia Guidestones that somebody blew up, thankfully. But, you know, that could have been a distraction too. And there's 10, like, you know how you have the 10 commandments? Well, whoever occult weirdo that financed this whole thing the pseudonym is Richard C. Christian, who actually built this, or paid for it to get built. So anyway, number one, maintain humanity under 500 million. I mean, we're in the billions. But maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. I mean, that's why they're so big on, the jab. That's why they're so big on the reproductive services being funded by our taxpayer dollars throughout the world. They love killing babies, and that's the sickest thing in the frickin' evil world. Okay, it's very evil of these people, and if they repent, that really sucks. But if they repent and turn to Jesus, maybe they got a chance. The word says they will, but man, if you're responsible for killing millions of people's lives, it just makes me sick. It sounds like back to Babylon here. Look at number 3. Unite humanity with a living new language. That's what Babylon was. It was all, they all spoke before it got divided. Tower of Babel. Before the languages were divided, they it says they all spoke one language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. All right, we're going to trust them to tell us what tempered reason is. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Okay, we know how there's fair laws and just courts. Yeah, that right there is I've seen it for myself. People get bullied by the legal system all the time, and though they're the ones with the truth and they're the ones in the right, they are usually the ones that either end up in jail or lose completely financially or destitute, because their opponents have the money and the wherewithal, financial wherewithal, to get through the court system and, drain it out and bully you with the legal system. We see people, sometimes the threat is not from a different country, sometimes the threat is within, right? And that's the major one that we have to watch out for here in the U.S. We got really bad judges trying to tear down our Constitution every chance they get. Free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of, having the right to bear arms, our Second Amendment, and all the other amendments after that in the Bill of Rights. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Okay. I mean, this is definitely UN jargon right there. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Oh. Okay. So what's that term they use? That's basically saying bypassing the court system. Bypassing, I can't think of the word right now, guys. I'm a little hungry. It just speaks for itself. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. What, elected officials? What, sheriffs? Right? Those that are actually elected to represent the people. But these same WEF people are the same way. They speak this way on their website, and they're unelected, right? Be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature. So again, that's the whole keeping it aligns with number 1. Maintain humanity under 500 million. To perpetual balance with nature. That ties right back into number 10. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. So they're basically calling human beings cancer and leave room for nature. So we need to depopulate the earth so that we can have more nature. All right, here's a snapshot of nanotechnology, mRNA vaccines, and they keep pushing it, even though it received all that bad press from the last 5 years and everything coming out. The National Institute, NIH, all of that, ever since that got overhauled by RFK, and these medical industries, pharmaceutical industries are still pushing the heck out of mRNA vaccines. It's crazy. Along with other things, they're trying to push it into the nanotechnology. You have graphene oxide, which helps deliver the aluminum part, the adjutant or whatever they call that. So this graphene oxide helps make all the connections. So I'll just hover over here. I'm not going to play any sound, but basically they're putting 5G radio waves on this, as the title says. So imagine getting this stuff in your body, injected in your body, and then your phone rings and you put it up to your ear, and then boom, something happens to your head and then you die, or whatever, your freaking arteries clog. There's graphene oxide. There's all sorts of things people are coming up with that actually are detoxing people from this. I want to say it's one thing that people are doing. They're going and getting a chelation? They're getting basically a version of chelation done, to where it actually they're pulling out these long strings of black tar looking stuff right out of their arms, right out of the blood, and then they filter the actual leftover blood and they pump it back into your body. And these people have to do these treatments, when it gets bad, and when they start showing symptoms again, because they're self-replicating. That's what they're not helping people understand, is these mRNA, they're self-replicating nanoparticles, and there's no controlling them from stopping growing or compounding. Then you have, some of you probably don't understand, and some of you do, transhumanism is a philosophical and scientific movement advocating for the use of advanced technology to enhance human physical and cognitive abilities, extend lifespans, and overcome biological limitations. So in the pursuit of trying to live forever, a lot of these wealthy people are, proponents of this type of stuff. I don't even want to get into any of it. But that's how everything's aligning. You got the nanoparticles in our vaccines. You got stuff spraying on us from atop, in the air. And then they're starting to try to modify gene stuff in our food supply and high toxic metals in our food supply as well, let alone chemicals that kill you over time. Right here is just an example. I'm not going to play the video, but I'm going to, basically I'll kind of just show you, like, you guys, can you see that? This is just starting with speaker, rubber hose, water source, tone generating software, produce 24 hertz, sine wave, 24 frames per second capable camera. Okay. So he turns on the faucet. It's just running a regular stream, and then he turns on the wave and adjusts the volume, and then it shoots out like that. So rather than a regular stream, it's doing this. Okay. And you keep doing it. And that's even a better picture. Oops. Don't play. Please don't play. You got mad at me. Ah, darn it. I didn't want to play it. So you see that? That's just from a speaker and a sound wave, okay? Frequency, sound waves, however you want to talk about it. Sound experiment. Now imagine 5G, microwave waves, millimeter waves is what 5G is made up of. 4G is different. 5G uses millimeter waves, which is microwaves. And when those, you put, say, you can look up cell phones and them ringing around water and see what it does to the water. And it actually disturbs in the air. It actually disturbs the electron particles inside of the air in oxygen. So much so that it vibrates them super, super fast. To where when you breathe in air, it's not absorbing all the oxygen because it can't recognize that oxygen molecule anymore because the electrons are doing something the body can't absorb. Hence asphyxiation. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to, and the thing with water though, water is made up of oxygen as well. Okay, so what are those electrons in 5G doing to, even though this is a sound experiment, what are 5G millimeter wave particles doing to the electrons inside of the oxygen inside water, H2O? All right, let's move on to the next one. This lady, water is alive and responds to human emotion. So this is an interesting one. I can't play it, of course, but they do a bunch of experiments. How you take a water particle and you freeze it, okay? But you first speak negative to it, and then it let's see if it'll show. So it was done in like China or Japan. So here, the first word research the team exposed water was arigato, which is Japanese for thank you. And I know that because of, I know how to say it because I like sushi and all that. But anyways, this is kind of the neat thing. Oh man, don't do this. It's a commercial. Great. I have to let it play, guys. All right. It has this beautiful crystalline structure, right? Then it introduced it to you fool. Now look at that. There's no structure. It's just all sporadic. It looks like hell, right? Thank you in French. So the more beautiful word sounds, check this out, compared to the other one. Look at how much more detail that is. Isn't that beautiful? Like, it was way more, on the other one, it didn't have as much detail at all. This one has way more detail. And then they do sound and everything, and then it shows all the different structures that the water takes. And now think of it. Our body is how much percent water? I used to know, 70%, kind of like the Earth. Is that true? I'll just look it up real quick. How much of the human... 50 to 60%. Babies have the highest percentage of water, around 78%. And what I found out with the mRNA and the graphene oxide is the graphene oxide on the other side of that is a metallic, starts with a P. It's a metal that they use underneath it. That is also in these vaccines, and then the graphene oxide gets charged, and then the water acts like a electrical conduit type of thing. So the more water you have in your body, the more, and then you pump your body full of this stuff, it's gonna really hurt your body, right? So it basically, without water, the technology would be dead, and our body's mostly made up of it. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. All right, next thing. Another thing that 5G does, cell phones, mobile phones. And this was by an Ebert Hart, J.L. Presson, BRR, Brunn, A.E., Salford, LG. It was a peer-reviewed paper. It's a long thing, but I believe this is the NCBI gov, NIH.gov, where the study was done where the blood-brain barrier permeability, which is the porousness of it, the permeability and nerve cell damage in rat brain 14 and 28 days after exposure to microwaves, so the millimeter waves, from GSM mobile phones, electromagnetic biology and medicine. So there was the blood-brain barrier was broken, and there's nerve cell damage, okay, in rats after only 14 and 28 days after of being exposed to the these electromagnetic frequencies. Right here, these numbnuts, sorry I'm using my dad's lingo, but they're absolute numbnuts. Oh man, come on, go away. This guy, I don't even want to say these evil people's names, but this guy is touting, gosh, I mean, I shared this on my Instagram, so I don't know if I'll get flagged for it. All right, well, let me play. Yeah, I don't know if it didn't let me play like it did before. I think I have to stop playing on this thing. But basically,
their best behavior, because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on,
which would penalize, fine people who don't have the appropriate behaviors.
And we're going to need to change behaviors
and short-sighted behaviors that undermine collective progress.
you have to force
You have
behaviors.
to force behavior.
At BlackRock, we are
And at
forcing
BlackRock, we're
behaviors.
forcing
Citizens will be on their best
Citizens
behavior.
will be on their best
because
behavior.
we're
Because
constantly
we're
recording
constantly
and reporting everything that's going on.
everything
Which
that's going
would
on.
penalize,
Which would penalize
fine
people
who don't have the appropriate behaviors.
and we're going to need to change behaviors
And short-sighted behaviors that undermine collective progress.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Which would
All right.
penalize,
mute
fine
that just in case it makes sound later. Now, the other thing that we have is from all these different directions, right? So we got all these distractions, all this warfare against us, from our food, water supply, in the air, and then the psychological part and what we're exposed to on the screens. And I don't know if you know this, but the screen rate, the frames per second rate, especially on these like video games, screens, you know, touting like 160 frames per second or 200 frames per second or whatever they're up to now. I know the one that I'm on right now, but this is my stuff that I'm, sharing. But on the, like when you're playing a video to somebody, apparently the patents say that they can quickly, like with milliseconds, like faster than you could even see. Okay, you don't even notice it. But when a movie's playing or a show's playing, whether it's on a streaming device or anything, they can actually put images inside of those little frame rates per second, you know, between each one of those, and then they're actually, it imprints on your brain. It's there's technology. You can look up the patents yourself. But that's one way they do it. They do it with sound as well, and frequency, manipulate people, and then you got this warfare. It dates way back. All the psyops. Very interesting if you want to read up on this. Just type this in Wikipedia, and it'll kind of give you a short few examples in history of how that was used against other people. You got modern era. Talked about World War I, World War II. Yeah, it was all done in each one of the wars against the enemy, so to speak. Of course, they're not going to make mention of what was done on our homeland. The planned use of propaganda and other psychological actions having the primary purpose of influencing the opinions, emotions, attitudes, and behavior of hostile foreign groups in such a way as to support the achievement of national objectives. I wonder if they're going to talk about this. But when Obama was president, he actually stopped or revoked, I don't know how they did it, but basically, you know, like our country, we couldn't have any of that stuff going on our own people in the U.S. But through him, whether it's executive action or order or whatever, he was able to bypass that law that we've had forever, and now it allows the media to do propaganda to shape and mold people's perceptions and views to achieve their goals. All right, blitzkrieg, again, I kind of already talked about that. It's a word used to describe a combined arms surprise attack, so on all fronts. So in Germany, we had the Western Front. Okay, who's ever heard of that? You got trench warfare. You had it coming from the sea. You had it coming from the sky, and all these other things, right? It was a blitzkrieg. So they try to surround you with all different types of assaults. Well, in psychological warfare, they do the same thing, okay? To try to, my brother could talk more about this what he used to do, but basically to control a population that's starting to uprise, okay? The first thing they do is they come in with a big old pow, like something to desensitize the senses, to make you, whether it's you can't hear or you can't see or you get dizzy, any of those things. And first they come in with that, and then they come in with the other one, and that causes the other senses to be impaired. And then they, so it's a blitzkrieg to control the masses. And so they do that with all these different campaigns, politically, socially, entertainment, you name it, Hollywood, maybe sports, and so on. So that's that. Now, the last thing I kind of want to drive this home with is, well, there's a little bit more to go, but let's see. Alaska Skywatcher, if you're hearing this, guys, or Alaska Skywatcher, it's a shout out to you. He does a fine job. He teaches people, he could probably tell you what sites to go to, what he goes to track things. I'm not sure if he actually has software that helps him do all this stuff, but I think a lot of this stuff might, I don't know if you have to pay for it or, the stuff that's available online. But he's a super good resource as far as teaching you about the different technologies out there that cause weather manipulation, weather warfare, weather, climate change, to make tornadoes even more severe, or hurricanes more severe, or to make hurricanes just stay over one place for days on end. I'm not going to name the technologies, but there's a place in Alaska that does upper atmosphere manipulation, and then there's stuff on the ground that fires waves, so it hits the lower atmosphere. So they're covering their bases of basically frying the public, and then causing flash floods and you name it. Now, when they're doing cloud seeding, since they've been doing this since Operation Popeye, on the Wikipedia thing, did it show it on here? No. But on one of these, when I showed it before, it was talking about Operation Popeye is when they say it started. I think it probably started before that, but Operation Popeye was used in Vietnam. And my dad, when he was there, he was in the Navy from 69 to 73. And he was on 2 different destroyers, and they were anchored off the shore, off the shore of Vietnam, and then they would bombard the enemy with shells and stuff like that, and artillery. Well, my dad went on land once to visit my grandpa that was installing, I believe, transmission lines, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, that was a different country. My grandpa did that. At Vietnam, my grandpa Niles, he was, of course, he's passed away a long time ago, but when he was there, I think my dad told me that he was making or fixing maybe the fire truck equipment there on at the landing strip, or even the aircraft. I'm not sure, but he was like a mechanic. He was repairing things when he was there. And I think he went there because he knew my dad was serving, his son was serving. So I think he wanted to be there just in case for him as well. And anyways, Operation Popeye. So they do the whole cloud seeding program, silver iodine and all that. Well, one of the other things they did back then was something called Agent Orange, and it really hurt our Australian Navy, our U.S. Navy, and boots on ground and everything over there. And if it wasn't for the Australian Navy and the data that they had posted online and they awarded all their blue water or the naval people all government benefits for being exposed to Agent Orange, even worse than the people boots on ground. Because what it did is the Agent Orange was dropped off of planes after they would seed the skies, and then they would just drop it out of the planes, and then it would rain this Agent Orange all over the vegetation, and then kill the vegetation, so that then we could see, who they said the enemy was, and then you could, so that you don't get killed, you got to, kill your opponent first. And so, but back out over there, that was one of the worst wars we had. They say no one won, but it did put a dent in the whole push for communism in that region. So we did break the back, according to an old Marine that passed away. He did say that we broke the back of, not so much Vietnam, but in when he fought way back in North Korea. they broke the back of communism and that kind of thing if it wasn't for that war. But in Vietnam, it was different. It was just kind of had something to do with Michelin and the rubber trees. It was and other things. But my dad told me about it all, and I'm not going to get into it while we're here. But the reason I'm bringing up cloud seeding is now they're putting barium aluminate in it with silver iodide. All of those things are toxic for us. And if you notice barium aluminate, look at the spelling. Can you guys see that? B-A and then A-L. So barium and then aluminum is the periodic table version of what that is. Okay. And then silver iodide, AgI. Roll. Barium aluminate is cited in Google patent as an example of metal iodate that can be included in pyrotechnic composition for weather modification. All right. I want to move on to the next thing. I asked how much barium aluminate parts per million is toxic to humans. And it says there's no established toxic level in ppm for barium aluminate because its toxicity depends on its solubility, absorption, liquidity, like liquid absorption. But soluble barium compounds can be toxic. The minimum oral dose for soluble barium is not clearly defined, but lethal doses are estimated between 1 to 30 grams, depending on the compound. For example, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has set a maximum contaminant level for barium in drinking water at 2.0 milligrams per liter. That's equivalent to 2 parts per million. That's being showered on all of us. Now, remember those two together, barium aluminate together, what the periodic table is? It's BaAl. Some of you already know where I'm going with this. In the Bible, Molech, or it's spelled M-O-L-E-K sometimes, or there's another way they spell it, is a deity associated with child sacrifice, particularly by the Canaanites, while Baal is a primary Canaanite god whom the Israelites were warned against worshiping, although the names are distinct. Rabbinical tradition linked Molech to child sacrifice to the god Baal Haman, and both were considered false gods in opposition to the God of Israel. The biblical texts condemn practices associated with Moloch, and so on, punishable by death. Talks about deity of child sacrifice, and so on. Now, again, you got all these things killing our youth, okay, and causing spouses to die, and, you got the agenda out there, population control agenda, right? So you got all of that stuff. Everyone's promoting it. And, oh my gosh. Guys, I'm so sorry. My phone's ringing. Can you guys all hear that? It's probably someone calling in. Bear with me. Hold on. That's weird. I had my phone, and I have no idea where it's at. So, sorry about that. And whoever was just trying to call in, I apologize. I hopefully it was like one of those weird calls that you don't even have to pick up. All right, let's move on. I just asked, worldwide. It's bad in the U.S. too, but alone. How many abortions per year are worldwide? And this kills my heart. It kills my heart that this is even a reality. Approximately 73 million occur worldwide. And you know what? Our taxpayer dollars not only finance it here or have, but around the world. And out of this 73 million, these are the ones that people are initiating. These are the unintended, and these are the unsafe ones out of them all. So there's actually 121 million unintended pregnancies happen annually, and 61% of those results induced abortion. So that's where they get the 73 million refers to induced abortions. That one hurts, so I'm going to move on. Here is one of the guys I follow, Donut. His name is Alex. Tommy Truthful is another guy that he partners with him, does some collaborations. We have Paranoid America. Go ahead and follow these guys. He partners with Donut all the time as well. They've done like an entire day episode. And he's super good at art. I believe he used to work for Disney, and he knows all the occult stuff that happens there, and he whistleblows that. I watched him, and he kind of goes into that too. But he's very good with art, and so he puts out these comic books, and they promote that as far as like, a certain cult weirdo freak show people out there, but they make the comic books to reflect, to like expose them. Does that make sense? So guys, sorry if I didn't do you any justice there. All right, and then that's how much. All right, I believe that's about it. So let's see here. Oh, I did want to show you this real quick. Alaska Skywatcher. He has his camera pointed out all the time. He's uploading videos. He's helping people understand how to, you got your chemtrails and so on. You got the radar links here. This is the first time I've actually been here. United States Geological Survey, the Schumann resonance, windy weather radar, the Next Lab satellite and radar, the storm. I want to tap on one of these if it's here. This one shows what they call NextRad. Oh, this one's the NextRad one. Ooh, I wonder if it's gonna. There we go. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I could show you this. So you guys see these little rays right here? These like, and sometimes they're more pronounced, but these little lines just kind of streaking and going out in flares. Like these are like other things, but sometimes you'll see a huge bump. Let's see. I wonder if it does it longer. Go last image. No. Okay. But right down here, you can see a lot of activity. Okay. And then in there, oh, right here. Oh, can I pause it? I can pause it. Doink. No, I'm trying to pause it in the right spot. You see that? See that little freaking next rad right there? So that's what they're doing. They're doing that. That's on the lower atmosphere. But that's frying people. All right. So enough about that. But go visit. Wow. I'm so glad. I'm going to save this. Done. Oh, I already have them in my book. Okay. Let's see. Portfolio. Links. Yeah, I already did that. All right. So please visit. He has YouTube, Facebook. Not sure. I believe he's on Instagram too. I could be wrong, but I think he is. All right, guys. I'm gonna let you guys go for the day. This will be uploaded. Hopefully, I wish the sound would have played on the websites, but that's fine. It's actually probably better that way. That way I don't get flagged for misuse of anything. But I'm gonna unshare this. And then maybe it'll allow me to do this. That's so weird. It's not letting me. Huh. Alright. Gosh, you know, I hope I can see my audio mic playing, so I'm sure you could hear me. That was my greatest fear, is like if you couldn't hear what I'm actually saying, and I'm just like thinking you can hear it. That would really, really suck. Alright, I'm going to pray for everybody here, and then I'll let you all go. Heavenly Father, we come together in Jesus' name to, I pray that you bless my brothers and sisters out there, my family and friends, and people that I don't know, complete strangers that came across this page. I pray that you would bless them to give them wisdom, Holy Spirit discernment, and don't be afraid to be bold about your faith either, and to be bold about sharing the truth, and to expose stuff out there that needs to be exposed, so people are prepared of heart, and so they're not caught off guard. And I pray for everybody's health, that you would heal them, heal every cell in their body, make that body come back to homeostasis, and give them the energy and the strength that they need. Some people are on far, long trips right now, and some people are traveling. Keep them safe. And I pray that all the evil schemes of the enemy, the fiery darts from the enemy, that everybody would put on their full armor of God, that it just bounces off. And that the enemy has to leave, because we have the authority in your name, Lord Jesus, to cast them out and bind them and rebuke them, in your powerful, mighty, blessed name. And Jesus, we love you with all our heart, and I pray that the next episode is maybe shorter. This one kind of went over, but I hope that people are blessed by it, blessed by the information, that it plants seeds, and that and then please give me wisdom as well. I'm waiting for other people to come on and share their insights. Anything that they can contribute would be so helpful. And also, it's a lot easier to do these with conversations and have authentic conversations rather than just orating and narrating our presentation. I'd rather have this to where we can have conversations, and to me that's a little bit more authentic and productive. And then the next episode, Lord, help me put that together. I talked to my brother about it, and that maybe get him on the horn to where we can do like a joint thing, to where we can talk about the left and right paradigm and the matrix system that is out there and deceiving people. That people think it's one way, but actually it's not that way, and it's all an illusion. This whole left and right paradigm, two-party system, you name it. So I'm kind of teeing people up in this prayer for that in the future, near future, maybe next week, or maybe not, because I think we're having extra work hours and I may not be able to do it. But Lord, I pray that you would bless all the listeners, anyone that comes across this post. Again, if it's just one person that this finds valuable, that plants a seed, Lord, Holy Spirit, I pray that you would grow that seed and draw people to you. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I love you very much, and God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.